Raw sewage flowing through backyards instead of the pipes that are meant to contain it. We hear the reasons sewage leaks, spills, and overflows are happening because of the city's aging infrastructure. But dealing with a major construction project hidden right under our feet is not something that is always popular.
Kelly, try telling that to the people who are scooping raw sewage from their basements. The city calls it a problem, and now instead of simply pointing the blame to the aging sewer lines, they're getting down there, bursting pipes, clearing muck, and upgrading century-old lines. We got an inside look underground and inside the system causing the problems. Construction perhaps years overdue.
Hindsight's always 20/20. It's an ounce of prevention is always easier than a pound of cure, and we're sort of in the pound of cure mode right now.
A cure to a problem all too familiar in the city. It's aging infrastructure. Many of the city's wastewater pipes date back to the early 1900s. Old clay pipes with joints every 3 feet.
Those joints allow roots to intrude. The clay pipe is a little bit brittle, so it's prone to cracks, which again allows the roots to get in.
But once you get down in there,
we're actually looking inside the pipe to see if there's any structural defects.
It's not just roots clogging the system.
We see deposits of grease that have been there for decades that are like cement.
The city kicked off a FOG program last year, aiming to cut down on the fats, oils, and grease flowing through the sewer system.
It can get pretty messy, but I think if you know what you're doing, you can cut back on the mess.
Kahari Keys has been checking area restaurants for about a year.
Yeah, this is the byproduct of the fried foods you eat.
Making sure they're managing their grease levels and what goes into their drains properly.
Due to the amount of fats, oils, and grease that's been going into the city's pipelines, it's been causing a lot of sewage backups and a lot of drains that they basically back up into the streets, or manholes they may even pop off as well.
A problem Patricia Shiflett knows all too well.
Well, it happens, I'd say at least 4, sometimes 5 times a year.
About once every 3 months, a river of a different kind flows through her back alley.
It comes down with enough force that it raises that manhole cover and the raw sewage, and you can see evidence of it even today, where there's still some toilet tissue left on the property.
Each time, she says, the city responds quickly, but she worries it might not be soon enough.
It goes into the stream, which runs along my property.
Sometimes, she says, the raw sewage gushes across the property for days at a time.
It's not always toilet paper, you know, it's what goes along with it that is kind of nasty.
She's not alone. Since 2010, the city reported almost 2,400 sewage spills, mostly relatively small spills, a few hundred gallons of wastewater or less. How often does that happen?
More frequently than we would like.
In 2002, Baltimore entered a consent decree, which requires the city to fund a wastewater collection system evaluation and rehab program. But they're not stopping there.
We feed them a steady diet of work. This is pipe bursting, which is one of the more technologically advanced projects, but they do cleaning for us, they do CCTV, point repairs.
The upgrades to cut back on sewage spills flow all the way to the wastewater treatment plant itself.
Wastewater facilities are here to treat the sewage, which is one part of the puzzle.
Nicholas Francos runs the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. They've got at least 3 major projects going on to upgrade their system.
This will all be torn out and redone.
He says their new Headworks project will cut back on sewage overflows.
Right now, we're actually a little bit constraining the flow of and backing up the system. So when this is all completed, the sewer system will have a free flow.
They're also building bigger storage facilities and clearing out main lines that he compares to clogged arteries.
The lines that come into this plant are, they're like 96 inches, and they, in some cases, you might have half of that filled with grit and debris over 50-year period or 100 years that it's built up.
For Patricia Shiflett, knowing upgrades are coming down the pipeline is good news.
You can see the extent of where the flow is. It's not a trickle. It really comes gushing out. You can see evidence of toilet tissue that's still left there.
The city says they're trying to catch up. The consent decree is set to be completed in 2016, but they say really the work is never done.
Properly maintained assets are easier to deal with and on a more timely basis than ones that the O&M has been kicked down the road.
Francos tells me that all of the projects going on at the wastewater treatment plant are aimed to improve the health of the Chesapeake Bay. Driscoll says they're seeing sewage leaking into basements far too often. She expects the major construction to wrap up within the next 5 years. She says, unfortunately, until there's a problem, most people don't think twice about what happens when they run their sink or, flush their toilet.
I'm not even eating dinner, and I'm disgusted. Did you see anything that just really was off the charts?
You know what? It was kind of gross to see down in those pipes. But one of the biggest problems, they said, is the roots, and these roots can really just trap things that are going through the pipes. They said one of the major problems was the sanitary wipes. They get stuck on the roots, they get trapped in there, and like she mentioned, the grease can just harden up and get as hard as cement and keep things from flowing through.
All right, get that work done right away. All right, thanks a lot, Amy. Sorry.